Steven, where's your green?
I forgot to wear it.
St. Patrick's Day weekend. What are you doing?
I always forget. I always forget to wear green.
Well, if we weren't digitally separated, I would pinch you.
Yeah, but this yellow and blue, technically, if you combine it, it's green. Ow. It's green.
Thank you, Jesse.
She's not wearing green. What the hell? You're not allowed to do that. You're not wearing green. You're not allowed to pinch.
Well, you can't pinch me because you're on the podcast.
Yeah, okay.
Those are the rules?
They better be the rules. If you're not wearing green, are you allowed to pinch someone that's wearing green or not wearing green?
I don't really know. I always wear green on St. Patrick's Day. Those are the rules, Steven. Top of the morning to you, everybody. Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. How's your St. Patrick's Day weekend going so far, Stephen?
I haven't done anything.
Oh, okay. Are you?
Yeah.
It's more so Jesse's birthday weekend than St. Patrick's Day for you.
Yes, but I guess in the true spirit of St. Patrick's Day and the true spirit of Ireland and everything that is celebrated, we went to go see Mad Max Fury Road in theaters.
But that's been out for like 10 years now.
Yeah. They brought it back in theaters to Walnut Creek just for like
nice.
Just for like a couple of days. I think for a weekend or something. So we went to go see it last night.
Did you see it 10 years ago in theaters?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I
still
didn't
an
appreciate
awesome experience, I would assume.
Oh yeah,
appreciate it.
I didn't appreciate it before.
Oh,
because at first I was like just so baffled by the silver spray that they were spraying in their mouth before they were about to enter Valhalla.
Well, this is all because the new one's coming out, the Furiosa origin story movie.
Yep. We saw a trailer for it, and I was like, "Have you ever seen Mad Max?" And then Jesse's like, "No." And then it turned out it was playing in theaters down in Walnut Creek. So we went to see it last night.
Nice. Jesse, like it?
Oh yeah. Now, and you know where we went before that?
Where?
Tiki Tom's, son.
Ooh, good spot.
Oh, dude, that's like our favorite place.
Nice.
Yeah.
They still do karaoke there?
I don't know. I know they used to, because Whitley would always try to get everyone to go.
Whitley and our guy, Dirty White Boy Wes Mills.
Dirty White Boy Wes. Yeah, he was a legend over at Tiki
Tom's. Wait, have you guys seen any of the old original Mad Maxes?
I haven't.
Oh, that's I mean, the new ones, not the new, well, the 10-year ago ones, very good. The old ones with Mel Gibson and Tina Turner, I actually don't know if they're good. I actually don't know if I've seen any of them, to be completely honest.
I can't imagine they are. Like, when I thought
they're
about
probably
this,
good.
I thought about this with Dune, right? Like Dune, it's a movie that's meant to be made in this day and age when you could make movies of that scale. Dune is so, like, as far as like the world that it's created, it's so vast. You can't speed things up. And back in the 80s, whenever I picture movies like Mad Max or Dune, I just picture like these writers or directors just being so high on cocaine that they feel like this would be a good idea, that they should make this into a movie. But you can't really in the 80s, you know, because you only had so much to work with.
You don't think these writers are high on cocaine making these movies now?
No.
Oh, I do.
I think they are totally sober.
Cocaine's hell of a drug, man. It's, spawns many different decades.
It's like I was watching a trailer for the old Dune because I've never seen it, and it's just like, my God, how did one come to think that they could make a movie out of that in the 80s?
Well, then one has to question, because I know a lot of Star Wars fans hate George Lucas for recreating the old movies.
Mm-hmm.
But is it just because like he knew in that time period in the 70s that he couldn't get the best out of what he wanted to do, what his vision was, and then just went back and is like, now that we're in the 90s and we have better, technology, I can make better visual effects.
Right. Yeah. The Star Wars thing's a little different because Star Wars, they could actually, like, Star Wars was legit in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Wars was legit in the 70s. It could be made in the 70s. But
you don't think like Mad Max and Dune are on the same level?
It's just too much. It's just too much with that type of landscape and everything. You could create visual effects in space. We've seen them do that. But now, like nowadays, it's just so much easier, I think, to make those movies. You have so many more resources and everything to make just that much cooler. You know what was funny? Jesse's reaction to the guitar guy. You know that guy who just played the entire time?
The guy that now that's one of my favorite characters, where he was just he wasn't there for any battle or to kick any ass. He was just there to, rip off some tasty licks for those weird albino people.
It's like he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He is literally programmed to play
keep the rock going.
to play it, dude. That was great.
Didn't him and Tom Hardy at one point like actually fight?
Sort of. He was like attached to these bungee cords, so to speak, I guess, and like he was attached at the hip, and Tom Hardy, like, I think, hit him in the face, but then as soon as the guitar got back into that guy's hands, he just started ripping it again.
I mean, yeah, he's like the orchestra on the Titanic. He's just there for one job. He's there to play music, and he will go down with the ship or the car or whatever he's on. I respect that guy.
Yeah, except he doesn't have eyes, so that's a difference.
Oh, he doesn't need eyes to play great music.
No, he doesn't.
I was at the, I guess the courtyard or whatever you want to call it, the little in Market between Schroeder's and Royal Exchange St. Patrick's Day party.
Oh, okay.
Was there with all the KMBR people and John Curley, who's a part of KMBR now. And John Curley was in his element. That man loves himself a good St. Patrick's Day party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's nobody who's
wearing the beads, wearing the green.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Every year.
Buying probably beer for everybody.
Drinking a ton of Coors Light. I like how I like your little tweet to him, by the way, or at least I knew that you guys were officially back at the same radio station when I saw his Twitter got hacked, aka he left his Twitter logged on to a computer, and the exact one that you were going to use. It's like, he's tweeting out that he's quitting drinking Bud Light at 2:15.
Yeah,
in the afternoon.
I'm sure everybody knew it was me, but I guess the real sign that signaled that it wasn't John Curley was when he ended the tweet by shouting his own name, John Curley.
I like that,
because that's just for whatever reason that was like our joke. Like John would always want to like he had a hard time like getting a hold of like Eddie DeBartolo or like different guests, and I would just like make up some weird thing like it's like just John calling over and over and over again, just being like, "Hey Eddie D, it's me, John Curley. Didn't get your last your phone call. Well, I'm still here waiting. We got plenty of time tomorrow on the show. All right, just hit me back, John Curley."
He does do that. He's weird.
He is a weird guy. You would have loved it though. I totally ate shit last night. Was at a bar. Did not see a step coming up. Went to go get water because I definitely need to hydrate, and just totally just hit the step and fell, and right in front of this girl I was talking to too, which was fantastic.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
nice.
And I can't even be embarrassed because it was just epically funny. I was just talking and then and she's like, "Oh, there's a step there." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit."
You were walking with her and then you fell over the step?
Yes.
Ooh, and it was just you and her, or were you around?
Thank God no one else saw it, but Walter from KMBR came back and was just like, "Yeah, I knew you fell because I heard a large thud." So now I got some scabby knees this morning. Anyway, yeah. So I hope everybody's enjoying their St. Patrick's Day weekend while I'm recovering today. A lot of moves in the NFL the last time since we did a podcast, Stephen. There's a lot of big news. Some solid moves that I like, not big ones, but ones that caught my eye. Devin White signs with the Eagles, pretty good linebacker. Tyron Smith goes to the Jets. So the Jets really getting a good line of defense for the vice president, Aaron Rodgers. He's got his nice secrets. They should call the offensive line for the Jets now the Secret Service.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, no doubt. I got nothing better than that. That's the number. Yep. That's it. Like, who's going to be his Secretary of Defense? Like, what's that going to be? Or the Secretary of Offense? I don't know. There's all sorts of ways you could go with it. Aaron Rodgers is in for just God, if he didn't think the off the field stuff was going to creep into his regular season, as he tweeted last night, or as he tweeted at the end of this season when he said, like, keep all the BS off the field.
Yep.
Well, all of that is going to be hitting him right on the field, because he is going to be under a microscope again for everything that's transpired over these past few days.
Well, he did acknowledge, I guess, the rumors that he said the things about Sandy Hook, and said, I did not say those things. Or I guess he didn't say that he didn't say those things, but he just,
he did his version of immunized with that.
Okay, fair enough. But
he did his version with that.
He didn't acknowledge whether or not he's going to run for vice president. But I guess we'll find out, because I just saw RFK is going to announce his VP next week in Oakland. I guess he's going to be here for whatever reason.
Really? Yeah, where's he going to announce it? Plank?
I'm actually going there later tonight, so I'll find out. I'll do.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
you're going to Plank?
Yep.
For what?
Just to hang out with my little brother. Go watch the Warrior game.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Don't follow me, anyone. Anyway, yeah, now everybody from the chat. Hey, Derek's here. And Tacky. Where's Tacky, by the way? That son of a bitch will probably follow me there. But what else were moves are made? Devondre Campbell signs with the Niners. Used to be with the Packers. I guess that's their makeup move for Eric Kendricks leaving to go to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And Eric Armstead signs with the Jaguars. So he gets all that money, no state income tax. Good for him. Desmond Ridder traded to the Cardinals for Rondale Moore. So Rondale Moore goes to the Falcons to be part of Kirk Cousins' receiving core. And Sam Howell was traded to the Seahawks to be the backup quarterback for Geno Smith. And Jimmy G going to the Rams. Interesting. They must feel comfortable Matthew Stafford coming back, because they won't have a backup quarterback for the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, that, and they must feel comfortable about their future. What are they going to do?
I thought they would be maybe in the, young quarterback sweepstakes. We'll talk about the other big trade that happened yesterday. Just to get a guy that's going to fill in for Matthew Stafford, but they feel comfortable with Stafford for right now, and they wanted Jimmy. They actually were trying to trade with the Niners to get Jimmy Garoppolo when everything was going on with Stafford's shoulder injury. Remember that one training camp, and the Niners were moving on to Trey Lance. So if the Niners were going to cut Jimmy, the rumor was that the Rams were going to swoop in and make him the backup quarterback for Stafford. So no surprise there, honestly.
A little bit of a surprise.
I mean,
maybe not the team, but the fact that anyone actually wanted to sign Garoppolo. Like, I'm sorry, but that guy that went out on the field last year, like, that had the makings of a quarterback who should be moving on. Like, he doesn't bring anything really, I don't think, to any team, except for maybe he's just a good locker room guy, and he's cool, and he's chill, whatever. But like, what does he actually bring to any football team on the field? Like, Jimmy Garoppolo's, I mean, I don't even know if he's capable as a backup anymore.
I wouldn't say that, Steven.
Why not?
Because he's not a starter anymore. He's definitely a backup, though. He could be a backup in this league. He can win you games.
I guess.
You think he's just totally unplayable now?
Almost, yeah. Last year, like,
I wouldn't say that.
You're under a Josh McDaniels system, one that you're familiar with, and you can't do anything. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was high on him at first because of that first game where he ran it in for a touchdown, or ran it in for a big first down rather. And it's like, wow, they have a guy who knows how to win. But ultimately, as the season went on, he just wasn't very good.
No, he's not.
I just didn't know there'd be any team that'd be willing to sign him. I just thought he was going to be one of those guys that falls off to the wayside, and you just wonder what happened to that guy. I thought that's where Jimmy was going to be.
No, I still think that he could play in this league as a backup. I think he'll be fine. I think there's a lot of capable backups. But yeah, no, I think that's fine for him. He's not a starter. The amount of turnovers that he had last season, he's just not that guy. And I think it was hard for anybody to play in Josh McDaniels' offense, to be completely honest. He's just not. Jimmy should have known it from playing with him back in the day, but it just sounded like it was a clusterfuck. So,
yeah,
whatever. He'll be fine back. The only reason I thought that maybe he wouldn't be signed is just the suspension. So, Now, they'll have to sign somebody else. Maybe they'll bring up somebody from their practice squad for the first 2 games. But the Rams gain a Jimmy Garoppolo, but lose equally a great player. I'm kidding. It's nowhere on the same level. Aaron Donald. What's up, Tacky? There he is. Aaron Donald. Oh, here he comes. Here's Tacky. Can't say long. We have a quick message for Derek. Let's hear it, Tacky. Right. Go ahead.
I'm into that.
Yeah, we all know what it's going to be. 1, 2, 3, eat shit. Yep, there it is. This guy. Clever. Anyway, Aaron Donald. This was a rumor not a rumor. It was actual news. For a while, since they won the Super Bowl, it was a thing where he was going to retire, that he wanted to step away from the game. He actually did tell the Rams after they won the Super Bowl that he was going to retire, and they had to talk him out of it. So he came back, got a new contract, and I assumed that he was going to play one more year. He had one year left on his contract to just finish it out with the Rams, build upon the season they had a year ago where they went to the playoffs but lost in the first round of the Lions. And that's it for Aaron Donald. He told the Rams, I'm sure earlier in the week, but Friday was official. He told everybody that he is retiring after 10 seasons in the NFL. Your thoughts, Steven?
Well, which one do you want me to get to first? Do you want me to get to the bigger picture, or do you want me just to get to the player himself? Because the player has just been outstanding.
Player himself.
You knew you were watching a generational talent when you saw one. Like, even with J.J. Watt doing what he was doing, you saw Aaron Donald. It's like, damn, with his size, what is he, just over 6 feet, 6'1"? His athleticism, having to take on double and triple teams all the time. The dude was just a menace. And I think I think really, along with J.J. Watt, he brought some interest back to the defensive tackle position. Like that's the type of guy that has everyone kind of going from focusing on the entire team. Like, I think there's more interest now in linemen more than there ever has been before or had been before. I think just so many people are interested in the details and want to become more familiar with it because there's so many, so many ways that you can learn about that sort of stuff. And it's just like Aaron Donald's one of those guys where you're watching him every single game. You're keeping an eye on him because you know that he's going to do something crazy. And I'm not really surprised that he is retiring. I guess I was, because they restructured his contract and it was kind of a shocker. But yeah, thinking back to that season after they won the Super Bowl, like with both him and Sean McVay,
Yeah.
But the bigger picture to me, actually, you go first. What'd you make of the player, Aaron Donald, the player?
I mean, yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, he was incredible. That same draft class with him and Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack's a great player, but Aaron Donald stood out more, just being a defensive tackle and getting the amount of sacks that he got. Arguably the best defensive tackle in history. Like, there's been many, Mean Joe Green and John Randall, Warren Sapp.
Right.
But this guy, just different. Merlin Olsen, other greats that, played way back in the day. But Aaron Donald, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 111 sacks, 8 first-team All-Pros. He was just dominant. He's arguably the best defensive player I've watched. I put him in the same category as a J.J. Watt or, other greats that I've watched, throughout, defensive football, Ray Lewis, or any other great pass rushers. He was just completely dominant and game wrecker. You'll always remember him causing the interception of Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game, or forcing the 4th down throw that was incomplete on Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl. And yeah, he came into the league and just dominated right away, won Rookie of the Year, and yeah, Hall of Famer. Really nothing else to be said. He's first ballot, in my opinion, one of the greats. I'm disappointed that he's retiring. Would have loved to see him play one more season. I think it's going to be a huge loss for the Rams. I mean, even though he's kind of fallen off a little bit, but he still had 8 sacks last year, so he could still play in this league.
But he was still first team All-Pro last year.
Yeah, so he still could play in this league, but he just wants to step away. Don't know what he'll do. I don't know if he'll be a media guy. He doesn't seem like he has that personality. He seems like he just wants to chill, be with his family. So Yeah, I mean, great career. It's kind of like, God, two of the best defensive tackles that I've ever watched in my lifetime. Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox retiring this offseason. So going to be interesting
Right.
to see who are those new guys that step in that position.
He already did accomplish his goal of getting that ring, right? That's what he was doing immediately after they won. He was pointing to the ring finger. But here's the big picture of where I think of this. I think he knows that the Rams aren't going anywhere fast. And I think that he knows that in his time, if he were to play 1 or 2 more years, they probably wouldn't get there. They probably need a little more time because to me, whenever you see a player retiring like that, when he's at the top of his, not necessarily the top of his game, but when he's still up a good deal on that mountain on the chairlift, on his career. When he's still up there, he hasn't even turned around yet. But when you retire like this, like to me, I always think of a guy like Tiger Woods in golf who says, when I stop playing, that's the time when I think I'll never win. That's why he still plays, is because he still thinks he can win tournaments. And to me, like when you look at a guy like Trent Williams, who's done everything that he needs to do, but also needs to win a Super Bowl ring. Like the reason he sticks around is because I think he fully believes the 49ers still can win a Super Bowl and he can get that ring. I think Aaron Donald will want to get two. But I also think that he knows in the back of his mind that, yeah, this team's not going anywhere fast, at least in part, because there's family stuff, there's injuries, there's not wanting to go through an entire offseason. I understand all of that, but I think also he knows that where the Rams are going, at least the direction they're heading, it's not worth potential injuries or entire offseason of work, being away from your close friends and family for that long and having to sacrifice life events just so you can play some football. Yeah, I think he knows also that the Rams Super Bowl chances have kind of dwindled and their window's kind of dwindled. And by the time that he is at the end of his contract, yeah, they're not going to be close to that by that time. So that's what I think. That's what I also think factored into the decision.
Well, he was injured last year too, and I think he wanted to play one more season where he was healthy and leave on his own terms.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I agree with you, Steven. I do think the Rams could be a good team. I don't know if they're going to be Super Bowl team, but I think from where they were a year ago to, cut a bunch of salary and basically get rid of all the guys that was part of that Super Bowl team, all of the fuck them picks moves just to get away from those guys, and then to really rebuild the team and to be a playoff team, to get Cooper Kupp back and to get Puka Nacua and who's their running back? Kyron Williams?
Yeah.
I think that they're right now, if Aaron Donald was still playing, I put them second in the NFC West. But now with him gone, it's kind of a tie between them and the Seahawks, I think. But I do think that they could have built upon what they were building right now. I find it weird. Like, not necessarily, I don't think they're, in the same level as the Niners or maybe even the Eagles or the Cowboys or the Lions. But they were building something. So I'm surprised he walks away right now. But I think that once you have retirement in your mind, to play like 3 more years is tough. Like, he was ready to go after the Super Bowl. So for him to play 2 more seasons, I think he just gave everything that he could. And I do I hear you though, when players, they know that they're going to win, that they come back. And that's what I think keeps Trent Williams, keep playing. But there's guys like Joe Staley, who was on that Super Bowl team in 2019 and then just retired and was like, I know we could come back to the Super Bowl, but I'm just done. And sometimes you see a lot of potential in a team and you're just like, oh, this would be fun. But the grind of training camp and saying goodbye to your family and the toll on your body just isn't enough.
Yeah. But Joe Staley was a little different because he was older. He was older than Aaron Donald was. I think Aaron Donald knew something at this point. Like, I think he would have kept playing if he thought they had like a legitimate chance of getting to the Super Bowl this season.
Well, what about there's always the rumor that he wanted to go play for the Steelers, that he wanted to play for his hometown team. I wouldn't be surprised if he just sits out this season. It's the one last year of his contract, and he's like, I took a year off. I want to go play for my hometown team and come back for 1 year and play with the Steelers. I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Yeah. Could very well do that. Who knows? Maybe it could be a Tom Brady situation.
Yeah.
Takes it all back. Just all you have to do is create a video. Everyone will welcome you back with open arms. It's not like you could just retire and then everyone just has you, pegged as retired. No, you can come back if you want, especially with a player of that caliber. Question of whether he'll want to, though. Like, these off seasons, you see these guys, man, when they're done playing, either A, the linemen get really skinny because they're not having to keep up eating the amount of calories that they eat every single day as an offensive lineman.
Or the amount of HGH they put in their systems.
Or you see the guys that are smaller get big, aka like
Maurice Jones-Drew,
MJD. He's one. Yeah, he got a little bigger. Bernard Robinson. That's another one. You seen him lately?
No, I haven't.
A big old boy.
Is he now?
Yeah.
Sean King. You remember Sean King, the quarterback?
Yes. They've had themselves some fun. Yeah.
Hey, why not? Live your life.
No problem with that.
Same thing with Derek Jeter. Remember when he retired, everybody called him Derek Eater?
Yeah.
So stupid. The New York Post. Derek Jeter, good-looking guy, just like a little bit of a gut. Oh, he's getting fat.
Yeah. We're not allowed to, though. We're not allowed to change our bodies. We're not allowed to do what we want. We have to keep this perfect stature at all times. And I say we as in they, not us. Because we
speak for yourself, Stephen. I'm a pillar of health.
You are. You're much healthier than I am. Oh boy.
Yes, this is the guy that fell on his ass last night drinking. Nice. So yeah, I think Aaron Donald was a great player, right up there with JJ Watt. I thought JJ Watt kind of retired early too, where he could have kept playing. But I think players are just a little smarter now these days, where they don't want to end up like Earl Campbell or somebody that can barely move after they play. I think they're just being smarter with their bodies. And I think the average NFL career will be shorter than usual. Like Luke Kuechly, he'll be eligible for the Hall of Fame next year, I believe. But I still think of him as one of the best linebackers in this league. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I mean, talent-wise, yes. But longevity, no. But
he's on the same length as he's on the same tip as like Patrick Willis, where he didn't play that long. He was fantastic, but didn't play that long, made it to a Super Bowl and all that. So I think I don't think he's first ballot, but Aaron Donald for sure is first ballot. It's not like that. I mean, you play for 10 years, you play for 10 years. Like that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, no, totally. So yeah, we will see what Aaron Donald does next in his career, and we'll see what the Rams do next to make up for the loss of Aaron Donald. Some moves that, I'm still looking out there. I saw in your tweet, Steven, you said the dust has settled in free agency. Oh, no.
Yes.
No, it hasn't.
Yes, it has, Derek. It's
settled. No, it has not.
Whatever moves are going to be made are not as thrilling as you think it is.
Okay, what about where L'Jarius Sneed is going to get traded to?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, there's talk.
What's going to happen, right? All this trade talk is going to come about, and then he's going to stay. He's going to stay, just like with everything with the Chargers. Oh boy, the Keenan Allen news was pretty big, and we're actually going to be we got Evan coming up at 12:30. Evan Giddings, because I think that he's saw him at work the next day. He's big time sad about Keenan Allen departing.
He loves himself some Keenan Allen, but we'll talk about that before we get him on. Our podcast should just become the podcast where Bay Area hosts that love other teams come to talk about their teams. Like last week we had Kolsky. We'll have Evan on today, talk about the Chargers. Saw Guru at the St. Patty's Day parade yesterday, or a party, and I told him, like, Guru, we need to come on and talk about the Cowboys. He's like, D, they're not doing anything. I'll gladly come on.
Yeah. We need to bring him on. So, because those guys all have outside interests besides Bay Area teams, and though they love their Bay Area teams, they do love others as well. And I mean, if you're talking on Bay Area radio about the Cowboys for a half hour, then everyone's going to kind of fall out of interest there and turn it over. You don't want to do that,
especially with the hatred that the Bay Area has for the Cowboys.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, like L'Jarius Sneed, we'll see what happens. I do think that I mean, from what I've seen, is anything from he could stay and play the franchise tag, and then there's some guy on the Colts beat that's saying that the Colts are going to trade for him for a third-round pick. He's adamant that's going to happen. And then some other writer for the Colts is saying, no, that's not happening. So we'll see, Steven. You also got where Justin Simmons is going to sign, huh? Tyler
That's
Boyd.
Actually an interesting one. That's an interesting one. The Justin Simmons one I'm interested. Tyler Boyd, Justin Simmons, I'm interested in that one.
What about Mike Williams?
Yeah, it'll be cool to see him go somewhere. I love Mike Williams, actually. I think he's just such a talented I just think he's such a talented pass catcher, you know? And I haven't seen anyone high point the ball as much as he has down the sideline, like 80 yards. But he's always injured. So it's like he's going to sign somewhere. That's great. But what are they going to get? You know, they're going to get 10 games, 9 games out of him, you know?
Yeah, we'll see. He may not garner a lot of money, but it sounds
the
like
Justin Simmons one's interesting, though. Justin Simmons, that's one where that's a game changer right there. Like that's a guy that alters a defense.
Last I checked, the Eagles are hot on him, but it's a matter of how much money he's willing to, leave on the table, I guess. But it sounds like a lot of people are not going to give him the money that he's expecting. So we'll see about that. There's also Hunter Renfrow. Where's Renfrow going to go, Steven?
Yeah, that's another one. I don't even want to think about that, though.
And then there's, I saw this and Florio put this out. I don't know if it's got some legs to it. Stephon Diggs did tweet out something yesterday that's along the lines of whatever happens, happens. And he's taken all the Bill stuff off of his Twitter, and you never know what that means. But apparently if he is not, or if he remains on the Bills this weekend, his contract is fully guaranteed for this season. And the Bills, while they have shit a lot of salary, still could use some more money because right now they're in the Chiefs kind of way of doing things where they put so much money into Josh Allen that they may have to say goodbye to a lot of their other big name players. And Stephon Diggs has definitely had some issues, I guess, with the Buffalo Bills or Josh Allen or whatever the hell's going on with that situation. So I would not be surprised if Stephon Diggs were traded this weekend, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he just stayed because he's a great player.
Are the Bills the one team in the AFC you're giving the best chance to beat the Chiefs? Like, who's that team right now? Is it the Ravens? Because the Ravens got better with Derrick Henry. But I know Lamar Jackson, we don't know what to expect with the divisional round game or an AFC championship. Like, which one? Is it the Texans? Like, who has the best chance in the AFC to beat the Chiefs? I'm not talking about the NFC. I'm not talking about all of the NFL, just the conference. It's tough, right?
Well, I'll tell you this.
I've had this weird mindset, man, where it's like, I'm in that mode where it's like when the Patriots were winning so much, where it's every team can do whatever they want to do, but is that good enough to beat the Chiefs? And that's a sick thought to have during free agency because a lot of teams improved, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, you ain't beating Kansas City, though.
Well, I'll counter your question with another question. How much better did the Chiefs get by signing Marquise Hollywood Brown? We talked about this.
Yeah. You gave Patrick Mahomes another threat. Like, what else is there to? I don't really even know how good Hollywood Brown is, to be honest. Like, he's talented, but I don't know how really good he is.
He's not Tyreek Hill, obviously, and you get him for 1 year, $7 million. He's just an upgrade over any wide receiver they've had.
Right.
So I think that's a huge move. They've won the last 2 Super Bowls with a subpar receiving core, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be there and going to go deep. Like Mahomes can finally just, Marquez Valdez-Scantling was the deep threat, but he was not reliable. I think Hollywood Brown has a lot of talent. Is he as reliable as Tyreek Hill? Absolutely not. He'll drop passes too. He's been inconsistent when he was with Baltimore and the Cardinals, but I think that's a solid move by the Chiefs. I think that's
it's really also big. A question of fit, right? Like, because not everyone can jive with what the Chiefs want to do. And I mean, if you're in it, you're in it. You know what I mean? If Patrick Mahomes likes you, if him and Andy Reid both feel like he has an understanding of what they want him to do and he's able to do it, then there you go. That's going to be a match made in heaven. But if not, then I don't know.
Well, I don't think they're done either. I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Renfrow went to the Chiefs or if he went to the Chargers now that they've got their receiving core kind of in shambles. But that's a quick fix in the draft or free agency. Real quick, the other move that I am waiting for, but I'm not going to be crazy about every week or every time we do a podcast like I was with Aaron Rodgers a year ago, is Justin Fields. I do wonder what's going to happen with that. But I don't think anything's going to happen until the draft. But something did happen yesterday that makes me think that maybe the Raiders need to make a move on that or moving up at the draft. So with Russell Wilson signing with the Steelers, we thought it was going to be a competition with Kenny Pickett. And come to find out, Kenny Pickett was, I guess, not happy with. I guess he was okay with Russell Wilson being signed, but I guess Tomlin then told him it's not going to be a competition. Russell will be the starter, and you'll have to earn your job back. And that's when Kenny was like, "Nah, I'm out of here." So
he also
forced
found out through social media, right?
Did he?
They didn't tell him that they were going to sign Russell Wilson. He found out through social media and pretty much told him, "Yeah, you got to figure it out." I think any quarterback should be willing to take up that challenge, but I actually think that kind of shows a little bit of Kenny Pickett's mindset. Like, you really don't think that you can stay in there and be like, you can't use that. You can't use that as fuel to get better at training camp and prove that you should be the starter, not Russell Wilson. I think that says a little bit about Kenny Pickett, to be honest.
I agree. It's not the best move, and so I was shocked yesterday. The Steelers trade him to the Eagles. He will back up now, Jalen Hurts, and they trade him away for a third-round pick and 2 7s, and the Steelers get a fourth-round pick in return, which kind of is interesting because he's going for a third-round pick. That's, I guess, higher value than what Justin Fields is going for lately, but. Yeah, now the Steelers don't have a backup quarterback. Kenny Pickett's going to back up Jalen Hurts. And now it makes me wonder if the Steelers would be interested again in Justin Fields. Would they want to trade for him to back up Russ? And like I said, I don't think any team that trades for him is going to pick up that fifth-year option as of right now, so he'll have to play for it. But, yeah, he just goes into learning and mentoring, or Russell Wilson mentors Justin Fields. But the Steelers were interested in Justin Fields before the Russell Wilson move, and now I would not be the least bit surprised if they try to revisit that. Same thing with Atlanta. They traded away Desmond Ridder, and the Falcons need a backup quarterback. What if they traded for Justin Fields so he can, learn behind Kirk Cousins? When Kirk retires, then Justin's ready to go. That is a long time from now. He just signed that contract, but it sounds like Justin Fields most likely will be a backup quarterback this season. Or possibly the starter with the Raiders. And the reason I bring up the Raiders stuff is because the Vikings made a trade with the Texans yesterday. They're going to get another first-round pick. They go and get the 23rd overall pick. And it sounds like the Vikings are going to move up in the draft to go get somebody. I think that they really like Drake May, and they really like J.J. McCarthy. And they're looking to get either one of those guys. And they're looking to trade with possibly the Arizona Cardinals, who don't need a quarterback, or maybe even the New England Patriots, who it's not set in stone that they want a quarterback. They could pass on Drake May and want to get like Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody. So with all that being said, in my convoluted way, with the Steelers possibly having an opening to go get Justin Fields, and with the Vikings possibly going to move up even further, now that they have 2 first-round picks, they could package those together to move up in the draft. Do the Raiders need to make a move pretty soon here to solidify their quarterback position besides Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell?
You talking about the draft? You talking about move for the draft right now, or are you talking about for Justin Fields?
Whatever they want to do. If they want to move up in the draft to get the guy that they want, or if they realize, shit, we're not going to be able to move up, let's go get Justin Fields right now. So at least we have a pretty good competition going.
God. I mean, that's such a tough question to answer because it's all dictated on what other teams are willing to do.
Exactly.
Ultimately, like, I think that it would pan out for them much better if they were to trade up and get themselves a quarterback, because you just want a young guy. You know what I mean? You want someone who is going to give you hope for 3 years down the line. And I don't really know if Justin Fields gives you that. Like, Justin Fields seems to be almost on the track of like a Geno Smith, where I'm not going to say it's going to take him, 6 years to find an actual starting job and become a full-time starter like it took him with the Seahawks. But he had 2 seasons with the Jets, and then after that was just a backup really until he found that starter job. Like, that's what scares me about Justin Fields in the future. It's like you can waste a year with him and then just wait again for the draft. Like, look, for me, I just want them to get a rookie quarterback and a franchise guy that they could build around who they drafted from the start. Nobody that they brought in. And I know this is totally changing my tune because I was kind of in on Justin Fields, but I also know that there are football people who are much smarter than I am. And the fact that he hasn't been traded now, I think it kind of says something about how teams kind of view him, or maybe they just want to wait it out. But
I think they want to wait it out.
Yeah,
I think they want to wait it out. I think that any team that is in the quarterback sweepstakes is going to see what's available in the draft, and then if they don't land anybody, then Justin Fields is the backup plan. Right. If you're the Raiders, out of all the teams right now, like, do they have a clear-cut starter? Like, is Gardner Minshew really going to be the starter?
No, there's no clear-cut starter. That's the problem.
So I think the Raiders are still the most likely and best place for Justin Fields because he could be the starter there. Right now, if you had a competition between him, Minshew, and Aidan O'Connell, who's winning that job? Probably Justin Fields.
You'd got to give it to Justin Fields, but you'd also be concerned if there's actually talk that, oh no, they're in a battle right now. Like, Justin Fields whoever comes in as that new quarterback, whether it be Fields or a rookie, you should know right away, yeah, this is going to be the guy. This is going to be the guy. Like I'm sure when Derek Carr came in, the Raiders knew when they had Matt Schaub as a starter, yeah, this Derek Carr, he's going to be the guy. Would that be a sure thing with Justin Fields? I bet you Gardner Minshew would impress so much in camp that there'd still be a little bit of a battle because Gardner Minshew can make plays, man. I don't know if he's like a guy that's going to get you to the playoffs as a starter, but he can make plays and he could show flashes. And I think that he'd make it a closer competition than it probably should be in camp. And that's what scares me about bringing in Fields.
Yeah, but that's okay with me. Even if he's backing up Gardner Minshew, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Just
from my perspective, though, I just don't want like someone else's castaway. You know what I mean? Or their cast-offs. You know what I mean? I don't want the scraps from some other team, even though that's terrible to call any player a scrap. But like, I don't want these other teams
or a castaway. Wilson.
I just don't want these other teams old quarterbacks come in and, well, yeah, it's the move that makes most sense for him. And we just figured we give him a shot. I want them to get a rookie quarterback, a first-round rookie quarterback, a highly touted rookie quarterback, a Jaden Daniels, a Drake May, even Michael Penix. I'd be in on Michael Penix. If you're giving me a Bo Nix, because Bo Nix was not good at Auburn, and he goes to Oregon, then turns into a different quarterback, and all of a sudden he's NFL caliber. No, I don't think so. JJ McCarthy, jury's still out on him. People smarter than I am about football think that he absolutely deserves to be a first-round pick. When I watched him play, I've only watched him play in full about 4 games. I watched 4 Michigan games this year, which is weird, but he didn't impress me. So I want a rookie quarterback, man. I want a rookie quarterback. I want some hope. I want to be the Texans. I want to be not necessarily the Panthers, but the Panthers feel like they found their quarterback. I want to be somebody with a rookie quarterback.
I don't know if Bryce Young will see.
Yeah. Jury's still out there too.
Yeah. I'm with you, Steven. I think that's what they want to do, and that's what they're hoping to do. But if they don't get anybody that they really like, and they're not in love with any of these guys, whether it's Nix or JJ McCarthy or Penix, then Justin Fields is probably the last resort. So that's why I don't think that they're going to do this yet. But if draft time comes around, they haven't traded up, and they're looking, draft night, and they realize that they're not going to get one of the other 3 guys, then maybe they make a deal the day of the draft or before, just to be like, we got to get somebody.
Yeah. I also say all that to say that if Justin Fields does become the Raider quarterback, and as soon as I see him make a play with his legs, that's it. Sold. Done. You know what I mean?
Because it's all about the legs when it comes to quarterbacks.
Yeah. Like I had Terrell Pryor. God, I thought he was going to be a menace after that game against the Steelers, where he ran for 98 yards and then passed for 70.
17?
70, whatever that number was. He didn't pass for 100 that game. He had that 98-yard run and then just sucked for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you see, that was the dilemma. It was just like, he could run, but God, can he not throw?
Well, also, I was convinced by your dad. It was listening from your dad, and he's working with Tom House, and it's all right.
Well, behind closed doors, you didn't hear Greg just be like, "This guy, we need a real quarterback."
Yeah, I did not hear that. All I heard was like the Tom House stuff. He's working on his throwing motion. Like, yeah, I was sold on TP at that time.
Well, if you remember at the time, the Bucks were going to release Josh Freeman, and I remember talking with my dad, just being like, "We got to get Josh Freeman. Fuck Terrell Pryor. Like, we got to get the guy that can fucking throw." And then he was terrible.
Josh Freeman. I forgot about Josh Freeman.
He signed with the Vikings and had like maybe it wasn't even like that awful, but you just watched him and you're like, "Ugh, he looks terrible," and then he never played again.
Yeah, he was just done. Wow. He was kind of cool with the Bucks, though. He had his
He
time.
was, and then he had his demons with the drug issues.
Really?
Yeah, that's why the Bucks cut him.
I didn't know that. Wow,
so
that's news
with
to
the
me.
the reason why the Raiders were thinking about going after him, and then I heard behind closed doors it was drug related, and they were like, "We're not touching him."
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I hope he's okay then. Damn.
I do hope he's okay. I actually don't know what happened to Josh Freeman almost 10 years ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. See, that's where we were at, though. That's where the Raiders were at. Ooh, yeah. Josh Freeman. I mean, much better pickup than Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, I mean, shit. It was way better than Matt Flynn. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember the Matt Flynn days. Yeah. Matt Flynn, Matt McGloin, Matt Schaub, the Mats. Oh, good times.
So before we get Evan in here, and by the way, we are going to try to get more guests on. So I see all the suggestions in the chat here. Yeah, Steven, we should get Spadoni on. If the Warriors and Lakers play each other in the play-in, definitely. And I do want to gauge his interest in what he wants to do quarterback-wise before the Raiders have their draft. So yeah, we'll definitely get we'll definitely get Spadoni on.
I can tell you. I'll just give you one hint as to his interest for the Raiders. It's Penix.
He's got big Penix energy.
He's got big Penix energy. He is all in on the Penix.
Okay, I don't hate that. So I would love to talk to him about that. So we'll set that up closer to draft time. And yes, we have John Curley. I did ask him to come on today, but he is. You cannot tell an Irishman to do anything on St. Patrick's Day weekend. So he said, "My man, I'd love to come on, but I'm doing the St. Patty's Day parade. So another time."
Yep. He's gonna, dude. I'm gonna tell the story again. I've told it, I don't know, 4 or 5 different times. But when I went, I didn't realize how big St. Patty's Day was for him. Like, I knew it was big.
Oh yeah.
Because I know he's just a very proud Irishman. But I didn't realize that it was an extravaganza. So he just tells me, he tells me during the week. He said, "Hey, Steve, come meet me on Saturday. Saturday, the parade's happening." I think the 17th was the Saturday, so it was on St. Patty's Day. And he's just like, "Yeah, come meet me at the parade. I'll meet you, and we'll go downtown, drink some beers." He didn't say it like that. But I take Bart. I'm wearing green. I'm doing the whole thing, and I get to the parade. I get off at Civic Center and go to City Hall, and he is just chilling along a barrier as the parade is about to start, just chilling. And he's got a Coors Light in his hand. I'm like, Jesus, Curly's just, what is he, on his own? And he's just drinking a can of Coors Light in the middle of a St. Patty's Day parade? What is this? This is all it's going to be? Because he told me it was going to be like a whole thing, And then, and he said, "Hey, man, what's up?" And we talked for a little bit. And then he goes, "Okay, you ready to go to the bar?" And it was someplace in the Tenderloin. And then, and then it's just me and him talking. And then all of a sudden he turns around and goes, "All right, guys, I'll see you later." And like this entire group that was sitting all over the stairs, they knew John. Everyone was like, "Bye, Curly." and then we dipped, and then we ended up meeting out with a group of like 20 people, hung out the entire time. St. Patty's Day in San Francisco, it felt like a true St. Patty's Day, Oh
yeah, no, they do it right, and John Curley does it right. I mean, yesterday we were at the whatever party, the block party with St. Patrick's Day, and John Curley ran into John Curley should run for mayor of San Francisco.
Agreed,
because he literally knows everybody.
Yep. I still have the button from his or the badge from
his campaign,
his 30th birthday. Yeah. I'm not a politician. I'm a San Franciscan.
It's a good slogan. It's a good slogan.
I Curly for mayor. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a month before COVID hit too. So it's like it's a 2020. The badge says 2020, and immediately
what could have been?
You immediately think COVID, but there were still 3 months before everything got shut down. So I look on that time fondly when the world was different.
Yes, everything changed. We'll get Evan in here in about 9 minutes to talk about the Chargers and what they did. But let's talk about that real quick before we get him on. So everybody, all the Niner fans were hoping that Joey Bosa was going to get cut by the Chargers and join his brother Nick. And the Chargers just restructured Joey Bosa's contract, so he's going to stay. He took a $7 million pay cut, but I like that, honestly. Like, I didn't want to see Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa break up already, because I feel like 2 years of them together, we haven't really seen them together because they've just been injured. Well, Khalil has been there, but Joey, for the most part, has been injured, and I completely understand why they were thinking about moving on from him. But even he realized, like, I got to live up to this contract a little bit better. So he took a pay cut, and he's going to come back. And I think that's a really good situation for the Chargers. And then later that night, I was shocked by this. I thought that they were going to keep Keenan Allen after releasing Mike Williams, and they trade Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears for a 4th-round pick, which is a really good move for them. If you're thinking that they're going to draft Caleb Williams, that's not bad to have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift. I think they picked up Gerald Everett as a tight end. And they have the 9th pick overall. So they definitely could get one of these wide receivers and have just a, spread it out offense that's going to be effective with Caleb Williams. I do think that's the case. I don't think that they're hanging on to Justin Fields. I don't any trade rumor you see where the Commanders are going to move up, I think the Chicago Bears are taking Caleb Williams. Until proven otherwise, I'm not going with anything else. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
But as far as the Chargers, I like the moves. I know Evan's going to come on here and he's going to be upset about Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is 31 years old, and he's had very effective seasons, over 100 catches, but definitely he's been injury prone as well. And so is Mike Williams. And for what Justin Herbert is, that offense has not exploded to the degree that most people expect it should. So I think they do need to get new wide receivers in there. They definitely could draft the next best guy after Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5. They might get Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5. Who knows? Or Malik Neighbors, or any of the offensive tackles that are available.
Yep.
But this is a wide receiver heavy draft. For anybody that's like tweeting out like Justin Herbert should demand a trade and they have no receivers for the Chargers right now. They got a whole fucking draft. Relax. And I agree with the moves. I think they should have kept the pass rushers, and I think they should have moved on from the wide receivers. I thought they were going to do one of each, where maybe Khalil Mack stays and Keenan Allen stays, the other two guys leave. But I think it's actually the best scenario. I do think it was right for the Chargers to move on from the receivers and keep the pass rushers.
How can the Chargers get themselves a 1st-round wide receiver? They're what, the 11th pick?
They're the 5th overall.
Aren't they 11th?
Chargers?
I thought the Vikings were in a trade with the Vikings. It says the Vikings are 5th. Oh, never mind. That's a mock draft. Excuse me. I was looking at it wrong. I was looking at a mock draft.
That's what people expect, to be completely honest.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I could see that happening because if you're the Cardinals, like, you got yourself your Desmond Ridder, you got Kyler Murray. Why wouldn't you try to pair up a number 1 wide receiver, a Marvin Harrison Jr., and send him to Arizona? I don't know why they wouldn't do that. And that kind of leaves the Chargers really wanting a number 2. Shoot, I mean, the Chargers could trade back and just take advantage of these other teams' needs, and they could just still get that number 2 wide receiver later in the 1st round.
They could, but they got options now. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Renfrow signed with the Chargers, that if Justin Herbert just needs a guy that can catch passes kind of like a Keenan Allen. Not the same player, obviously, but just a guy to pick up first downs, just a guy, a security blanket. I mean, shoot, there's tons of wide receivers still available on free agency. Tyler Boyd. I don't know if the Chargers are going to, spend a shit ton of money, because they still got cap issues. Not a ton. They reworked some stuff, but actually they saved a lot of money with trading Keenan Allen. So maybe they will sign another wide receiver. They probably will. But I think they're going to address wide receiver in the draft. And yeah, as far as the 49ers, I know everybody was, had their heart set on Joey Bosa coming there. I don't know how that would have worked with two brothers playing on the same team like that. Like, it was one thing to go get Nick's former teammate and Chase Young, and that didn't pan out. To go get his brother too, probably would have been dominant, but kind of weird. To be completely honest, I don't know how that would have gone. Um, and yeah, this pretty much signals to me that this is the defensive line that the Niners are rolling out with in 2024. They got Leonard Floyd, they got Yetur Gross-Matos. Um, they picked up all the defensive linemen, Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins. But they still got to try out Drake Jackson.
Yeah.
I know he was in the doghouse, but everybody forgets about him. They probably will. Like, you're second round pick, dude. Like, we got to see what we have in you. So I still think that they're going to be a good defense, but I do wonder if they got better defensively with losing Armstead and just not really making huge upgrades. Like, Leonard Floyd's good, but I don't know if they got better.
Yeah, they didn't. It's a fact. They did not. Like, I'm sorry. You may have filled any of the potential roles there, and you may have filled the void, but you did not get better. Eric Armstead, I'm sorry, but he is. I know he was hurt, and I know that the Niners didn't need to pay him the $17 million a year because that's what he was making. 3 years, $51 million, averages out to $17 million per year. Like, they didn't want to pay him that amount of money. I get it, but you downgraded. You did. Like, you could try to convince me all you want that they made an upgrade, but they didn't. It's just a fact. I don't know what else there is more to say about that. And I do wonder, like, I thought about this after hearing Max Crosby speak about Tyree Wilson, because he was on NFL Network and spoke very highly of Tyree Wilson. And already right now, he's like on his ass about like training, what he's eating. Like, he is literally testing him every single day. That's what he said. He's like, I'm being annoying as hell right now, bro. But like, this is what it's going to take if you want to keep up here in the NFL. And Max Crosby's trying to lead. I don't know who that guy is for the Niners right now on the defensive line. You don't necessarily need a leader, but you do need someone who's going to be talking out there. And I think Eric Armstead was that guy. I could be wrong about that, but I think maybe the defensive line doesn't need one, but I just remember thinking, like, with Joey Bosa going there, you really want the two Bosa brothers on the same team? You really want that?
I was wondering how that was going to work out, but no, dude, I'm with you. And by the way, is Max Crosby now officially big ass boy?
Big ass boy, yeah.
Yeah, that's Gardner Minshew's nickname for him, because that's what Max Crosby called him.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think this is the defensive line, and maybe they'll probably address defensive tackle in free agency, or not free agency, but the draft. But they still probably may look for a safety. I've heard Justin Simmons' name brought up with the Niners, but we'll see if they have enough money to sign him. I just think that this is what they're rolling with. It's cheaper options, but pretty effective. I mean, Leonard Floyd, I don't know if that's officially been announced for the Niners. Okay, well,
it hasn't been. I wondered about that earlier, and then I looked it up, and he's going to be announced officially this week.
Okay,
I guess he was like, yeah, I guess he was out of town or something, and isn't coming to the Bay Area until this week. So that's when they're going to make it official.
Gotcha. And then, yeah, I mean, we'll still see what happens with Brandon Ayuk. There was some weird report, I guess, from a Jacksonville radio station that there's mutual interest between Brandon Ayuk and the Jaguars. That doesn't really mean shit to me until the Niners are considering trading Brandon Ayuk. And I know that Mike Silver has brought that up a lot in a lot of the articles he's written. And, you know, he says it's going to become very interesting draft time where they have to decide if they want to take a wide receiver in this wide receiver heavy draft. But we heard that last time, 2 years ago, when Deebo Samuel wanted to be traded, and there was all this talk about maybe the Niners trading with the Jets in the first round and getting Garrett Wilson. That didn't happen. I still fully expect the Niners are going to figure something out with Brandon Ayuk. But, yeah, I'm not going to give anything until the Jacksonville rumors right now.
Well, she was on the game, and she laid it out pretty thoroughly and connected all the dots as to why there's mutual interest and why. Well, because is Brandon Ayuk worth a first-round pick? That's the ultimate question. Is he worth a first-round pick? Because the Jaguars supposedly were going to spend their first-round pick on a defensive lineman. But now that they signed Eric Armstead to that deal, whether it's a good deal or not, I mean, it's very Trent Ball. I got to give credit to Steve Berman, Bay Area sports guy, for tweeting it out like immediately, because it's right on the money. Like Trent Baalke signing another guy coming off an injury to a large extension. It's very Trent Baalke like, but they could very much be in play to trade that number or that first round pick, and it could happen. But I'm not saying it's going to. But Brandon Ayuk clearly pissed. You know, he was really pissed after that. It was more than just him being emotional. Like there was like legitimately.
He didn't get enough targets.
He didn't get enough targets, and there's something going on there. I don't know if going to Jacksonville would automatically, turn him into a Super Bowl contender. But my God, I don't know. Would you rather be catching passes from Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy?
Trevor Lawrence. And I mean, God, just thinking about that, Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, and Brandon Ayuk, that would be interesting. But so who was it? It was a radio DJ, or sorry, not radio DJ, a radio host saying that she heard from Brandon herself.
Not from Brandon herself, but from like the team and stuff like that.
Okay, well, we'll see. But joining us now,
what the hell's going on in the background?
I literally just texted Steven this. There's a massive block party on 24th Street in the Mission, literally right below my window. So I'll be going in and out as far as volume and mute is concerned. But I mean, what can I say? I just bring the party to every program I hop on. So thanks for letting me join.
There you go. And Steven couldn't wait for Evan to get a proper introduction. So Steven, why don't you do it for him?
Yeah, come on. This guy's a 95.7 The Game, jack of all trades. You can catch him on ESPN holding that mic flag sometimes for the TV. You can catch him on ESPN Plus doing college baseball, college basketball, college volleyball, any sorts of college sports. A jack of all trades, very smart individual. Evan Giddings, huge Chargers fan, by the way. And that's mainly why we wanted to bring him on, because we wanted to get his thoughts on the Chargers moves. But Evan Giddings, welcome to the program.
Bowl ganger don't bang, boys. I mean,
what?
Sorry, that's I think that was the slogan for the Chargers team in like 2018. For those that remember Melvin Ingram, he was like a huge captain for the last team that actually made some noise and won a playoff game, and was the last team that I've actually been in love with. So yes, Steven is correct. I'm a big Chargers fan. It's been an interesting week, I think, for really a lot of teams in the AFC West, not just the Chargers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to chopping up with you boys.
Well, that's our podcast now, as we bring on Bay Area radio hosts that, are fans of other teams, so they could talk about whatever they want to talk about with the teams that they are actually fans of. So we'll give you the floor, Evan. What do you think about your beloved Keenan Allen moving on from the Chargers?
Oh, that one hurts. So are you familiar with the artist Amine, or like Kate Trinata?
No.
Okay, so he's a rapper from Portland, and on his last solo project, I believe it was a song called Woodlawn, but there's an intro before it in which he's talking about the importance of Kobe Bryant in his sports childhood. Like when Kobe Bryant passed away, for a lot of people, a piece of their childhood died. So obviously not the same situation. Keenan Allen has been traded. He is still with us. But when Keenan Allen was traded from the Chargers to the Bears, for whatever the compensation was, could have been 6 first-round picks or what it actually is, a meaningless fourth, a little piece of me died, because I have been watching that guy since 2010 when he was a freshman All-American at Cal, and felt fortunate enough that he was drafted to my favorite team, ended up being very good for my favorite team, is still playing at a pretty high level. And I was also under the assumption that they had to kind of choose between either of their 2 wide receivers and Mike Williams, and then, of course, number 13. That wasn't the case. They let both of them go. But thank you, Derek, for help consoling me in my night and my hour of need. After sleeping on it, I realized it was probably the right thing to do. It's also not this current regime's fault that happened by any means. So I didn't like it from a personal standpoint. I mean, you just build connections to players and your favorite athletes. You're always going to love them. So I hate the fact that I won't, for the first time in like 15 years, get to watch, arguably my favorite wide receiver ever play for my team. But in the grand scheme of things, it was probably the right decision to make. And I feel like they were forced into these sort of scenarios and cost cutting and cord cutting situations by now actually the guy who leads the Raiders in Tom Telesco.
Steven.
Oh, is it me? So what's next? What's next for them at wide receiver? Because when they let go of Mike Williams, I know we can keep on going with Keenan Allen, but I'm curious as to what's next. They got what? Quentin Johnston or whatever his name is. Yep. Jalen Guyton. Is that the number 2? Is Jalen Guyton the number 2?
I don't know. Jalen Guyton's still there.
Yeah, you're removed from his ACL tear. No, he's still around. He's still somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Josh Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer's the de facto number 1 right now. He's looking around because it wasn't just the wide receiver room. Like they got rid of Austin Eckler, or I should say he signed with Washington, and then Gerald Everett also left. So literally all 4 of his primary pass catchers are gone. Or Herbert,
right.
I'm speaking about. So Josh Palmer's the de facto number 1. I think it points to an obvious selection at number 5 of a wide receiver in the upcoming draft. And that, unlike Quentin Johnston, is a pick that you must hit. That is a pick that you must nail. And fortunately, there's a lot of receivers at the top of the draft that I feel like they're pretty confident in stepping in day 1 and being a dude. So that'd be what's next.
So you definitely want a wide receiver there. You want either like Marvin Harrison Jr. or who's the other guy from LSU? Malik Neighbors, I think.
Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze for Washington's. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't think all 3 of them will be picked by that point. I mean, the hope is that Harrison would fall to 5, but if not, I think it's between a Dunze and Neighbors. I would probably lean Neighbors. A lot of people also feel like they might take Bowers out of Georgia.
Brock Bowers.
Yeah, so that he's an extremely good tight end. I just feel like a wide receiver will be more important there for what they need. And I mean, at the end of the day, it also kind of aligns with, as we light up the street here on 24th.
Hell yeah.
That's probably John Curley getting into a Irish fight.
There's a lot of green around here. I can tell you that. Not a lot of 5th generation San Franciscans though walking around.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you believe that Justin Herbert is a dude, then the decisions you make around him shouldn't necessarily be money consuming. Like, I think they're trying to rework how they build their roster, which previously was outside in and now appears to be leaning inside out, which I appreciate. So, I mean, they might take a tackle at number 5 or an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman could be. Yeah. I just feel like with what they have right now, unless they're able to, I don't know, swing a trade for someone like T. Higgins, which Derek informed me could be a possibility. I'm not sure that they can afford to not grab, the next Keenan or next Mike Williams, however you slice it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. Like, it'd be hard to trade for T. Higgins and give him all that money that he's expecting on top of what Herbert's making. And yeah, the most likely scenario is you probably would draft a wide receiver at 5. But given the background of this new GM, who's it? Joe Ortiz is the GM of the Chargers now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if would you be upset if they went like offensive tackle and got like Joe Alt, the guy from Notre Dame, to be the right tackle to shore up Justin Herbert's blind side, or not his blind side, but the whole protection.
Yeah. No, not necessarily. I mean, I think Rashawn Slater's a solid left tackle. The rest of the offensive line leaves much to be desired. So I wouldn't necessarily be mad about it, but I think what Harbaugh, along with their front office, is attempting to do is just getting back to what consistently wins in the NFL, which is having a running game. I mean, that's something they have. Even with Austin Eckler, who's a pretty good back, they haven't had a solid run game, I would say, honestly, since the season that we referenced at the top of this, which is 2018. And that was a completely different running back. A guy, not necessarily a bell cow, but someone that you can envision being a top half of the league rushing attack. That's just not really been the case for Justin Herbert since he's gotten to Los Angeles. And giving him that sort of added dynamic to an already, I would say pretty talented aerial game, I think does wonders for this offense. Is it enough to jump the Chiefs? That remains to be seen. But really, the goal of year 1 is just to contend for the playoffs. And the fact that they've already done so much to strip down the roster, goal number 1 was getting under the cap, which they've done in 24 hours. Goal number 2 is to get Harbaugh. I've just been calling him the czar. the czar of the Chargers, whatever he wants. And then goal number 3 is to contend for the postseason. I don't think it's necessarily a failure if they don't make the playoffs, but if they're not a plus 500 team, I would consider that a step in the wrong direction.
I like the sound of that Zarbaugh.
Yeah.
I would love
not
that.
Bad.
It's not bad.
Hang on. So I totally ruined the flow of this. I ruined the flow. I went right to the future, all right, instead of sticking on Keenan Allen, because I do have one more Keenan Allen question.
What about him?
I apologize.
No, dude, this is your show. Take me wherever you want. I'm along for the ride.
I know. Sorry, Derek. More apologizing to you.
No, apparently I'm along for the ride too, Steven. Let's go.
Number 1.
My bad.
Apologize.
My bad. Is there one specific part of Keenan Allen's skill set where you're thinking, God, I am not going to see a wide receiver have that specific skill set again? Because when I think about Keenan Allen, like, I don't know how it's going to be a little bit, but it's hard to imagine there'd be as reliable as a pass catcher just with his hands. How good he was, how talented he was at just catching the football. Like, I don't know if I'm going to see a player I don't know if we're going to see a player with hands like that, where it's just consistent year after year for almost a decade, where he's just never dropping passes. Is there one specific skill set for you? What's part of his skill set for you?
I mean, it's a part of it, but just getting open. Like, it's not really a skill I think you can teach. I mean, you can scheme guys open, but like you can't press Keenan Allen, even at age 32. Like, you can't play man and press him because, number one, he's got really good feet. Like you said, he has good hands. But I think the part that always caught people off guard when you watch him, he's 6'2", 6'3". So he's got really quick feet. He's got long arms. He doesn't have breakaway speed. Like, that. If you've ever seen a guy in a pickup basketball game that has ridiculous handles but finds a way to go nowhere, like, that's kind of Keenan Allen. He doesn't have, first step speed. He's not going to beat you down the field. He's not a deep threat, but he's just always open. I don't know if you guys care about this statistic, but first down catches is like one of my favorites for wide receivers. If you go look at his first down numbers, I think he might have more than Devontae Adams, who a lot of people would consider a better receiver than Keenan Allen. But year to year, you just stack up how many first downs Keenan Allen would catch. He's always in the top 10, top 5 among wide receivers in the league. And at the end of the day, if you're going to progress, you're going to move the ball, you got to get a first down. And so while he's not catching gaudy touchdown numbers, he's getting receptions, but he's not lighting up 1,500-yard seasons. I don't think, like, everyone was a little hesitant, I think, to pay him big money, but I always felt he was worth it because he's generally on the field. I think after his 2015-16 season, he's only missed at most 5 games. He's consistently out there. He's consistently open. And as far as, a singular skill set, I know it's kind of all encompassing, but just like getting open against number 1 corners, like getting open against their best guy, not just whoever's the OC, moving him into the slot, putting him against a nickel. He could play inside. He could play outside. Had no care for blocking whatsoever, but that's neither here nor there. And just like a classic wide receiver. He was also a great leader. Like, there was never any diva tendencies from Keenan Allen, despite, I think, a lot of his, demonstrative demeanor on the field, or kind of braggadocious nature. He never rubbed anyone wrong in the locker room, and he was a solid vet. So it's just sad to see him go from that standpoint, because he's also a bridge to, the former era of Chargers football when they were in San Diego. And I think he was the last member, along with Mike Williams. So it's kind of like San Diego's officially dead. Also, I apologize, the door just opened. My dog walked in.
Oh, no,
that's okay.
By all means.
There's one of our viewers here, AJ Cruz, tweeted, "That's Guru too." Yeah, when you were making that pickup basketball comparison, maybe you were thinking about a certain host that you work with. The one that you do the show for. Oh, is that that's Tuna with the tongue?
Yeah, this is old Tuna. This is Tuna right here.
Tuna with the tongue. Oh, look at that.
The tongue. The
He's also got great paws. All right, buddy.
So, hang on. So, what's up with the? I'm not meaning this in a bad way. Like, so why the tongue? Why is it like that?
He's got no teeth, Steve. He has no teeth.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I don't know if you've also been able to figure this out, but humans have their tongue in their mouth because they have teeth. Same with dogs, especially if you have a long tongue like this guy back here.
Nice.
So if you don't have any front teeth, whether you're a dog, whether you're a human, or whether you're somewhere in between, your tongue will be hanging out of your mouth.
Oh, good to know.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that because usually just dogs have their tongue out, but I didn't put two together. That's good to know.
He has no choice. Yeah, it's not really. It's not a catch-22 here. That is the way it works.
Can you get dog dentures?
That's a great question. He's only 3, so we might have to look into that as he moves along.
Well, adorable dog either way. Just back to Keenan Allen. I know you're a huge fan of his, but did you think, putting your fandom aside, did you think it was the right move or the smart move, considering that while we haven't seen a lot of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, that I just think both those guys, it's hard to find replacements for that. So getting rid of one of those guys or both of those guys was going to be tough. And while Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have been great wide receivers, the offense really hasn't exploded to what they expect with Justin Herbert. And Keenan Allen's getting older and didn't want to take a pay cut. Mike Williams has been hurt. Did you think it was the smart move to keep both Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and move on from the wide receivers?
I think so. I think it's also a little bit of a copycat league in the sense that we've seen successful teams be able to win up front. Like you need guys that can get to the quarterback in order to compete at a high level, more so than you need 2 elite wide receivers or, Pro Bowl caliber, however you want to slice it. Like you would rather have 2 elite edge rushers than 2 elite receivers. I think that's just the way things go. And to his credit, Jim Harbaugh has been able to win both at the NFL as well as collegiate level without necessarily a big number 1 all-pro wideout. I mean, you think about the 49ers, Anquan Bolden, Michael Crabtree, those were solid playmakers, but they weren't, I don't even know if Crabtree ever made a Pro Bowl.
I don't think so.
And I don't think Anquan did when he was with the 49ers. So if you have a running game that complements what you can do through the air, and I think Herbert's by far and away the best quarterback that Harbaugh has ever coached, then you're cooking with fire there. So like anything, the moves this offseason are going to be viewed based on what you do, on how many games you win.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea just philosophically of trying to build from the inside out as opposed to the opposite. The one thing I wasn't mad about the Mike Williams move, and based on his cap hit, it just made sense. But the one thing that does give me pause about Keenan is Herbert, when he hasn't had weapons to throw to, has struggled. Now, that's also been because he hasn't had a great O-line or a running game, but he hasn't yet proven that he can just make it work with any set of guys. And I think Palmer's solid, but he does, I think, still need a true number 1, and Keenan Allen was that. So we'll see if his passing numbers take a little bit of a dip, if the running game is able to offset that, or if, added protection through the draft or free agent signings or just guys getting better is able to kind of offset what the void that Keenan Allen is going to leave. I also think part of it too, maybe just from a foundational standpoint, is stripping yourself of the old regime, just trying to get some of the old culture guys out of the locker room. And that way, Zarbaugh, as you've so eloquently put it, is able to just say, hey, these are the young guys. We want to build this way. God love all their contributions, but they were a part of losing like that. They were a part of, the last 5 years in which you guys got to one playoff game and you blew a 27-point lead. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here to do. So I think from that standpoint as well, there's an easier sell. But at the end of the day, if they have a bad season, we're going to look at this conversation as why the hell did they do that?
Yeah. Do you think it was a missed opportunity for the Niners to not try and get Joey Bosa, or to not pick him up or trade for him, or however they would have gotten him? Because, Derek and I were talking about it, and it's just, it sounds great. Like the idea of the Bosa brothers being paired up and you have them in the red and gold on the same team and all that. But I don't know. I just think I don't want to say they dodged a bullet necessarily, but I just don't think that they needed a Joey Bosa on there. Like, it's just, I think it would have changed the whole dynamic really of what they got going on right now.
Well, they shouldn't have needed a Joey Bosa. I mean, their defensive line's should be pretty damn good. And I think you made the choice to throw your name in the big hat ring when you signed Hargrave. Pardon me. Armstead was a necessary move I think they had to make, and I really like the Leonard Floyd signing. I think he's a good edge rusher. I think he's a gaudy veteran. I guess pairing him with Staley is going to help probably. So the 49ers, to me, I don't know. Maybe I could be off or people would disagree. I don't think talent was their issue last year. Like, I think just playing up to their standard combined with coaching on the defensive side of the ball was the biggest problem. And I also think that offensively, they have ways to take steps forward. The gap they had to close was a touchdown in the final seconds of overtime in the Super Bowl. And right. I don't look at that as a huge gap that they got to close, even though they've made, pretty sizable moves on the defensive side of the ball. So going and getting Joey Bosa if he was available, it's probably, a good choice to make. But if the Chargers weren't willing to come off of him for a reasonable price, I don't think Lynch was going to go for that. And I think it's probably a mutually beneficial choice. Chargers keep Bosa, get him to restructure. Ideally, Harbaugh gives him a swift kick in the ass and gets the best out of him. And Shanahan and Lynch are able to make their moves and kind of retool around a defense that I thought was pretty damn good last year anyways.
So, two-parter, do you think the Niners got better this offseason with the moves they made? And also, last time you were on the podcast, you were, talking as nicely as you could about Brandon Staley, but now he joins the Niners staff. He's not defensive coordinator, but he's going to be, I guess, working with the linebackers. Originally, it was reported that he was going to be the assistant head coach, but I don't think that's the case, and I don't even know what his title is. So what do you think about Brandon Staley coming over and joining Shanahan?
First of all, I do think it's funny that the 49ers have taken now 2 former Chargers head coaches, Anthony Lynn being the other one.
Oh, yeah.
And turning both of them into like associate or hybrid head coaches, but both of them really, well, at least Anthony Lynn really not playing a huge role at all. I kind of think that's going to be the same thing with Staley. I think that was a good move for Staley because at the end of the day, like, this dude's been in the NFL for like 5 years. Like, he really doesn't have a whole lot of experience. I don't think he should have gotten the head coaching job in the first place. And it gives him a chance to associate himself with a winner, with a guy who produces defensive coaches, who gets guys second opportunities, unless your name's Steve Wilkes, and gets guys in positions to be hired. So that's a good move for Staley. And if you're Shanahan, you elevate Sorensen, who knows what you want to do, but you have a guy like Staley who is, to his credit, from Monday through Saturday, I think Staley's a good coach. Sunday is where the big issue always lied. And during the game, whatever his game plans were, the adjustments that he tried to make, it always felt like he was a calculus teacher teaching algebra. Like, he always tried to get guys, at least from what I read, he tried to get them to do too much. Like, just dumb the game down. It's not that hard. If we're playing a 4-3, we don't have to have all these dummy calls that a linebacker is not going to be able to communicate to every, all 10 members on that side of the football. That's why you end up with so many blown coverages. So I think the 49ers are trying to get the best out of Staley while Staley can get himself back into, I don't know, the good graces of NFL people, because I think people but they believe he's smart. I think he was just in over his head. So do I think they got better this offseason? No, but I don't really think they needed to upgrade as far as talent. I think they have the pieces. I mean, I think it's hard to put together a better roster than they did last year. Like, I think that was the best roster that Kyle Shanahan had and may have for the rest of his time in San Francisco. It just sucks you ran into the guy who's on his way to maybe being the greatest player the sport has ever seen.
So when Brandon Staley was brought over, the first thing I thought when he was given the title of assistant head coach, I was like, well, isn't that usually guys that help out with game flow or game decisions? And thank God he's not getting that title, because the first thing I thought of was, okay, so he's the guy that's going to be on the sideline telling Kyle, we should go for it here. And Kyle's like, I'm not going for it. Stop asking me, because Kyle never goes for it. It just would have been interesting to me. I doubt he's going to have that authority. But if Brandon Staley was telling Kyle that he's got to be more aggressive on fourth down, that would just probably be a shit show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Staley also fits in as the proverbial punching bag. Like, he's a guy that Kyle Shanahan can be in charge of, but can also throw under the bus if he ever needs to. And I think he's more inclined to do that because just proverbially Staley's more easily punchable than someone like Sorensen. Sorensen is a former player. Sorensen's within the organization. I've never heard Kyle Shanahan talk bad about his guys. I don't think Staley is one of his guys. I think he's just along for the ride. And to his credit, he hitched himself to McVay and parlayed that into a head coaching job. I think he's kind of trying to do the same thing. So ideally, they can get the best out of each other. I just think it's funny that you have not co-DCs, but like a DC that will be doing some of the DCing and then a defensive, well, we'll call them DCs, defensive coordinator and defensive consultant. That's what Brandon Staley is.
Yeah.
And together, ideally, they can help the Niners get back to where they need to be, which is not turnstiles when it comes to the run game.
I'm just picturing now Brandon Staley's introductory press conference. Evan Giddings is there. He's in the crowd, and Brandon Staley does an opening statement, does the 2 minutes on what he expects and what he's going to do. And then he opens it up to any questions. Then Evan, you raise your hand quickly and you said, yeah, I have a question. Number one, how dare you? I'm thinking of that line from The Office with Kelly. You watch The Office?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you remember that scene where Ryan becomes a boss and then he goes back to Scranton and then he like holds court and then opens it up to questions and Kelly's like, yeah, I have a question. Number one, how dare you? I think that's what you're going to do. Mm-hmm.
And which he would, well, actually, so this is where Staley is really good at the podium. He's incredible. Like A++. I guarantee you that's how he got the job in the first place. Like this guy has the best PowerPoint presentation of any NFL figurehead in the league because the moment he hopped on a Zoom call, the moment you got and you figured you could try and pick his brain, like this guy will convince anyone that he's a great public speaker. I think he's charismatic until the actual application of football, at least from a head coaching perspective, was applied. He wins the podium game. He can win the press conference. He just couldn't win as much as they needed him to on the field with what he had. So I think if in his introductory press conference, if I'm there, he'd probably answer something like, Evan, I think that's a great question. First and foremost, I really appreciate your hard thought line of concern with my prior downfalls or shortcomings, and I've worked really hard to figure out a way to blend my style with what the 49ers, who are an all-time franchise, and Kyle Shanahan, who's a beautiful mind, shout out Russell Crowe and Daryl the Goober Johnson, will have to complement what I can do. And then like that's basically what the press conference is going to be. And then I'm just going to sit there, and by the end of it, you'll be in a trance. Like you'll just be hypnotized. And then you go back and listen to it, and you realize in 5 minutes he said absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
so did Guru make that reference recently?
Yeah, that is one of my favorite Gooisms.
Oh my God!
Shout out Russell Crowe.
He's got a beautiful mind, Russell Crowe.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I could be wrong, but judging by what you're talking about earlier, are you of the opinion that Kyle Shanahan kind of threw Steve Wilkes under the bus?
Yes.
And why? Why?
Yeah.
Well, he literally did it like week 7.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, he did it. I've never seen a head coach do that.
Yeah, that was random, right? The one after the Vikings game, I think, when he talked about going zero blitz at the end of the first half, and that kind of gave the Vikings momentum in the second half. Yeah, that's not very common, right? Like, I'm not going to act like I sit here and go and watch every head coach press conference, but I remember thinking this is a little abnormal.
Especially after you scored 17 points against like one of the worst secondaries in the league. But that's neither here nor there. And then I think the what kind of did it for me. Well, he was naturally going to get fired. Like, I think there needed to be a breakup. That was just going to happen. But the latest Silver column, I don't know if you guys read it, but when Shanahan, or through Silver's words, admitted to probably, like, they should have gotten beat in either the divisional round or the conference championship game, some might read that and say, well, that's just him being truthful. He's understanding. In my mind, he's pointing to the reasons why they should have lost that game, along with everything else that was listed, including a first-team All-Pro, Talanoa Hufanga, needing to earn his spot back, the moves that they've made this offseason, bringing in multiple edge rushers, reshuffling the defensive line, going out and bringing in a couple of like minute but secondary members, and then re-signing Colton McKivitz while apparently loading up to bring in some ancillary pieces offensively. It just feels to me like Shanahan doesn't really think he did anything wrong. Like, or there was nothing else that he could have done, essentially. Like he was powerless to the dynamic duo of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And then what was going to get them over the hump in the postseason was going to be their defense, but they never really had it the whole year. And that was on the defensive coordinator who had to move from the booth to the field. Like all of these things, and I could be misreading it, but just the breadcrumbs to me point to Steve Wilks being the issue, the defense being the problem, and the offense being what is going to and what did carry the 49ers all of last season, which might be true. I think they were more offensively geared than defensive compared to the last Super Bowl team that lost to the Chiefs. But at the same time, it just felt like it was a little too black and white for me. And that's, I don't mean to get racial at all, but like literally just A to B, yes to no. This guy was the reason why we didn't achieve our goal. And so we got to get him out of here. We're going to retool and refigure that room to bring in two guys that complement each other. Like all of it was just, something just didn't add up for me. And Kyle Shanahan was at the root of all of it.
Yeah, no, I agree to a certain extent. I just think they didn't fit together, but I think that's on Kyle for not knowing what kind of defense Steve Wilks runs prior to hiring him. I think it was the right move at the time because he was coming off, a great run as the interim head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and everybody thought that he deserved that job. But then it was a big swing to go get him as a defensive coordinator, and then, yeah, I agree. I think Kyle threw him under the bus after the loss to the Vikings, and it pretty much seemed like every post-playoff press conference, he was like, well, we thank God, the offense scored enough points to get out of there. Like, it was just kind of like pointing the finger the whole time of like, this defense needs to be better, and I'm not a defensive guy, so this guy's got to figure it out, and this is not what I paid him to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, so scapegoat might be too difficult or like harsh of a term, but like all the finger pointing was just aimed at that side of the ball. And that's also a Shanahan thing. Like he's not known to take accountability, or even just admit like, hey, I could have done this better. Like there's not as much of that coach speak, whether he believes it or not. He's just not going to say it. So I just felt it was a little unfair that you identified someone, brought him in, it didn't work, and there's not even an ounce of remorse that involves you saying I made a poor choice.
Yeah. No, there was that article from The Athletic. I keep going back to it. I think I've mentioned it twice on the podcast where it was before the Super Bowl, and, writers are just trying to think of anything just to, reach the quota or whatever, but they were writing about Kyle Shanahan a lot. Mm-hmm. And one of them was about his style, very similar to his dad's in that he likes to keep track of everything. And I think it was like he had cameras in the position group meeting rooms because he can't be everywhere all at once. So he just has cameras surveillance so he can kind of watch the meeting from his own office. And I guess sometimes, like with Mike Shanahan, he just burst into the whatever room they're having a meeting in and would say, no, you're doing this wrong and change this, change that, and all that sort of stuff. And I think Trent Williams said it's something like along the lines of, yeah, it's kind of like Big Brother watching you, that sort of thing. And it's just like when you look at the history of the defensive coordinators, obviously there's Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, but I just can't imagine that Steve Wilks was a fan of that style, like him being in football for damn near 4 decades now. He's been around football since like the 80s. I just can't imagine Steve Wilks was very receptive to that style of coaching from Shanahan. So it's no surprise to me that he just got someone in-house, someone who is going to listen to everything that he says. Maybe that'll work. Maybe that's what's best for the team. But I don't know. You could tell that it just wasn't. They just weren't connecting at all early on, and there was something off. And that article kind of sealed it for me. I'm like, Steve Wilks can't have been.
Yeah, and also when the best player on the defense is putting his DC or former DC in the crosshairs, when Nick Bosa says, "Hey, we're solid on the back end, but like basically we didn't know what we were doing up front." That's also kind of a sign. I think that is something that stems from the top. Like if Kyle Shanahan is complimentary, even if it's fake, if Kyle Shanahan is aligned with his defense, I don't think you hear Nick Bosa say that. I think that's something that was acceptable to let loose because the whole season, that's how everyone felt. He was just saying the quiet part out loud. And when your best defensive player does that, I think it represents, a larger issue. So, like Steve Wilkes will be fine. He's had 28 jobs in 25 seasons. Like he's going to get another one or whatever, and he'll be on his way. And he's going to be fine. I think the 49ers will be fine as well. It just sucks that all of this, of course, is after a Super Bowl defeat again, in which you were even closer than the last one. But I just wasn't. I don't know how you guys felt. I didn't know how they were necessarily going to get better this offseason because you're probably, I'm assuming they're going to extend Ayuk at some point. You're going to have to factor in, you're going to have to extend Purdy next offseason in all likelihood. There was a couple of cost-cutting decisions they could make, and Armstead being one of them. And I think that was fine. Like, he's a good run stopper, but how durable has he been over the last 2 seasons? You're going to have to make a choice at wide receiver, maybe.
Yeah.
Guys are getting older. I mean, they finally have opportunities to kind of recoup some of that depth in the draft, but I didn't think as far as the free agency market, they were going to make a splash.
I didn't think there was going to be anything like the Hargrave deal last year where you get a surprise kind of, top player at their position who just so happens to be a free agent. I didn't think any move was going to happen like that. No, I've kind of been waiting on players that could potentially, get cut. Armstead being one of them. I thought Juszczyk would be a huge deal if he would have gotten more money elsewhere and they would have let him walk. I thought that would have been a bigger deal than we thought it could be. But another one that I'm paying attention to, and this is really not making additions necessarily, but subtracting, this Brandon Ayuk thing. This trade to the Jaguars or this mutual interest with a trade in the Jaguars. You think there's anything to that, or you think this is just, of course there's mutual interest with another team because another team sees a potentially disgruntled wide receiver and they're going to have interest in that player. Is there anything to it?
I don't think so. I think it's Brandon Ayuk trying to gain leverage, and understandably so. I mean, my biggest concern off of that would be you've had 2 players in similar situations negotiating for contracts. They got them, Nick Bosa last offseason and Debo the offseason before that. But both of them have come out and said publicly that those contract negotiations impacted their play. And if Brandon Ayuk is a large part of your offense, well, can you afford him to get off to a slow start at a season, for a season that is again, very important? So I'm more worried about how it impacts Ayuk as opposed to, is Ayuk going to be a 49er? Is he not?
Interesting.
I think the Jaguars are a team that, it makes sense. I think Ridley's representation is similar to Ayuk, so they have a connection there. So moving off of him, bulky would, I'm sure, sniff around. I'm sure the conversation wasn't very long, if there was one at all. And I think Ayuk is just trying to figure out how he can get the most money possible, and that, if the 49ers are going to make a choice, that they're going to make the choice about him. I think both Debo and Ayuk want to be long-term Niners, but I think both of them are smart enough to know that and Ayuk said it last year. He's like, I'm the number 4 option on a run first team, and I had 1,000 yards, basically in the future, AKA pay me. But they both understand that if you are a 3rd or 4th option in a run first offense, you can't have 2 guys. We were talking about the Chargers earlier. You can't have 2 guys making $25 million. They're going to have to choose one or the other, or they might move on from both down the line. I don't know. I think Ayuk's the more logical choice, just because Debo Samuel has been less durable, and I think Ayuk is just a more projectable player. But from an offseason standpoint, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the trade market is just him and his camp trying to figure out what his value is. Because the other part of it too, I mean, Debo scrubbed his social media. I think he might have there was a rumor that he asked for a trade. I don't know if Ayuk would go that far, but last offseason, you knew what Nick Bosa was going to have to be paid, which was at minimum, whatever the highest non-quarterback contract was. Ayuk doesn't really know where he fits. And so when Ridley gets $92 million, when another guy, Pittman gets $71.5, who's from his draft class, then he's starting to figure out, where do I fit in? And I think this call from Jacksonville, or the connection between Ayuk's camp and the Jaguars, is him trying to get a better idea of where he is monetarily speaking.
I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Ayuk gets traded, but I doubt it's going to be with the Jaguars just because all their receivers are big free agent signings. Christian Kirk reset the receiver market, and Gabe Davis is getting paid $39 million. So for them to go on top of that and make Brandon Ayuk one of the highest paid receivers of football would be damn near impossible. Plus, they have to pay Trevor Lawrence next year. So I don't see Brandon Ayuk
Mac
going.
Jones?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, what's all these quarterbacks getting traded to like their childhood teams just to back them up? Like Mac Jones was a fan of the Jaguars, and Kenny Pickett was, I guess, in Eagles jerseys when he was younger. I think that's weird.
Kenny Pickett's an idiot, by the way. This is an aside, but Kenny Pickett is an idiot. He didn't think he was going to play in Pittsburgh. What does he think he's going to play in Philly behind a guy who just got paid $250 million?
That's a good point. No, I mean that's a good point. Like he could have battled it out with Russ, and in the end, he's going to back up Jalen Hurts. So
what's happened to Russell Wilson each of the last 2 times in the last 3 years? People have realized that he's a dumpster fire and they don't want any part of him.
No, right. That's a great point. Kenny Pickett screwed himself there.
Yeah, it's like it says way more about him, like not wanting to compete with Russ, and it's like, oh, you found out last second. So what? You didn't have that starting. You had that starting job locked up just because of a formality, really, because they didn't have any other better option. Whereas this year, okay, you get some veteran and you get a veteran in there. You're afraid that he's going to take your job, so you leave. I think it's kind of an indictment on Pickett.
Yeah,
as opposed to,
a little short-sighted from a guy with small hands,
Well done.
Connies.
People are going to be so just unbelievably flummoxed in Philadelphia. Speaking of press conferences, when he steps to the podium and they realize he can't grab the mic.
Smells of cabbage.
It's gonna be like the opposite of LeBron, where the microphone looks like one of those little mini microphones whenever he holds it. It's my favorite thing. Whenever he leans back and he like holds it like yeah.
So what's been your favorite move of the offseason in general, Evan?
Ooh, my favorite move this offseason.
It's a good one, Derek. It's a good question.
I kind of like the Cousins signing.
Yeah?
Why?
Because Atlanta was pretty damn close to making the playoffs last year with a completely idiotically run offense.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a bunch of playmakers and they don't use them.
Yeah.
Like for a team that has used first round capital in like lottery fashion on 3 straight offensive players. And I think at all 3 of those positions, well, maybe Pitts, I guess, by process of elimination, but all 3 of those players were not their leading yardage. Didn't have their yardage total as number 1. Like that should never happen. So Kirk Cousins, you know what he's going to give you. Now he's not an incredible quarterback by any means, but I think he's serviceable. If you're telling me Kirk Cousins can make up 1 game, I think he could do that. And I feel like also Raheem Morris is someone that has been around winning long enough to get the defense where it needs to be. I'm not saying Atlanta's just going to run the table, but I think they should win the division next year.
Yeah, I think, I kind of had a too instant of a reaction because at first I just went, well, okay, you get Kirk Cousins, then what are you going to do? Just fall flat in the playoffs again? But I think, looking back at it, God, you look through all of free agency. Obviously, you don't win a Super Bowl in the offseason through all your offseason moves, but God, you could change everything about your team. And yeah, they probably catapulted themselves to top of the NFC South contenders, and you're going to win a division, and you're giving yourself a chance, which is probably what matters most through the offseason. So I think I'd have to agree with you there.
Yeah, and I also don't think there's been a ton of huge free agent signings. So that to me swings the needle a little more.
Here or there. I mean, I really like the Danielle Hunter signing for the Texans, but Kirk Cousins is huge. I don't think it makes them a Super Bowl team, but I agree with you, Steven and Evan. I think that it definitely makes them the favorite in the NFC South. Switching sports here real quick. We got a big game tonight between the Warriors and Lakers. So right now, Steph is questionable and Draymond's questionable.
Yeah.
But we expect Steph to play tonight. We'll see.
They're a package deal. So I think if Steph is expected to play, Draymond's expected to play.
Well, there you go, because Draymond won't play without him. But what do you think about the Warriors right now? Because I don't know how many games we have left in the season, but it seems pretty much now like they're going to be a play-in team. whether they stay at 10, whether they move up to 9. It's pretty much could be them and the Lakers battling it out. But Steve Kerr the other day said, like, maybe we could go on a run here and win 10 in a row. Who knows? I don't know if that's going to happen. But does it seem like the Warriors' ceiling right now is to fight for getting the 8th seed and facing the Nuggets in the first round and possibly getting eliminated right away?
Yeah, probably. I think so. Well, I mean, I guess if you sneak into the 8 as the play-in, you could potentially win the 7 if you win a road game.
True.
But yeah, that's what they're aiming at. And God loves Steve Kerr, but saying the Warriors are going to go on a 10-0 run would be like Mark Kotze saying the A's are going to be a 500 team, or like that's the goal.
That was going to be one of my questions, but I think you answered it.
I hope. I mean, that'd be great.
JD Davis.
Hey, another man's trash is the A's 3-hole hitter.
Yeah,
there you go. So,
and the number 2 and number 3 starters.
yeah, exactly. Seriously, no, the A's are cleaning up. But as for the Warriors, I think the rest of the season is about finding clarity. So the final 17 games would be about finding clarity in a reorganized roster. So giving yourself as much of a look at where the young guys are going to fit for next season. And I think also, too, where the veterans you might have to move off of fit or don't fit for this team. And, so earlier today on 95.7 The Game, we were talking about that. And it was really around Wiggins, Klay Thompson, and Chris Paul. Like, I don't think Chris Paul is going to be on the team next year, but how does he set himself up for a potential payday with another team? How does Klay Thompson find himself as a bench player? Like, where is his value with Golden State as opposed to someone else who would want to pay him to potentially be that player? And then Wiggins' value to me is just how much you can fetch for him, honestly. Last season, they moved off of Poole after giving him big money. I think a year removed, Wiggins made sense to stick with longer because he, at a higher level, has shown he can impact winning, in the finals. But it's been 2 consecutive seasons of a seesaw season for Wiggins in which he wasn't available. Like, he's always been inconsistent, but at least he's been present and on the court, even if you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from him. He's missed too many games for me. And moving forward, it'd also be like his 11th season in the NBA. I think he's had a lot of mileage on his legs, even though he's relatively young compared to the rest of them. And I think it's just about figuring out how much the Warriors can get for him on the trade market. So it's about, the 4 young players and where they fit. And then I think where the veterans fit either in or out of Golden State. That's what I'm hoping for the last 17 games, because you're right. They're going to be a play-in team. Fortunately, I think their floor is the 10. I don't think Houston can catch them if they play 500 basketball. So it's just about the clarity to me moving forward and where you think this roster can get to.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you on too much longer here, Evan, because we've been going on for like 45 minutes almost. Like,
flying by.
Over 45. I guess also on the flip side of that, with their younger players, with their rookies, let's just say, Chris Paul's gone, Andrew Wiggins gone. And I don't know, like, what if another team feels that Thompson is actually worth, the $24 million per year that he rejected? I'm not saying that he is, but maybe another team finds him valued that way, and maybe they make that signing and he goes elsewhere. That would suck that'd be a tough pill to swallow. Yeah. But I don't know, like, do you think that guys like Brandon Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis, do you think the sky's the limit from there? Are they benefiting off of a season with very smart veterans like a Chris Paul and what Draymond and Steph are doing, and they're just benefiting from that? Or are these guys like truly part of the future for this Warriors core that you could build around? TJD and Pajemski specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of their cap restrictions, they kind of have to be a part of their future. Right. Like, they don't really have a choice. But okay, if Klay Thompson walks, I know no name they bring in on the free agent market. Like, they're talking about the NFL and how there haven't been a ton of splash moves. Like, I don't think there's a splash move out there for the Warriors unless there's a disgruntled superstar.
Right.
And I don't know if it's Giannis or Embiid or someone who's pissed off about their standing. That's the only way in my mind they're bringing in a big boy. That's actually an actual game-changing move, which I don't see happening. So, if Klay Thompson walks, well, let's see if we can give that money to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who might not want to opt into his $15 million player option. Can we go out and get a shooter like Doug McDermott? Can we go get Gary Trent, who's, shoots 40% for the Raptors? Like it's players like that to me that you kind of would bring in to, supplement some of the shooting that Klay Thompson and a void of his stature is going to leave. But there's nothing sexy about what's on the horizon for the Warriors. Like I think they're in a really tough spot, and that's why the young guys are important. Do I think the sky's the limit? Maybe for Kuminga. But even he, to expect him next year at age 22 to all of a sudden be a top 25 player, like that's a really big ask. Do I think he could do it? Potentially, but that's the kind of jump you're going to need from not just him, but probably also from Pods or from TJD, not to top 25, but like, an exponential leap from their rookie season on to be a team that's going to contend. I feel like what's most likely in their future is they're going to be one of these teams that's going to battle for the play-in, maybe run into a hot stretch. I also think someone like Looney, they're going to have to move on from this offseason. If they could find a way to get off of Gary Payton II's $9 million, that might be something they can use. They are in a tough spot where it's funny. We threw away the 2 timeline shatter, I think a year ago, or maybe it was after the championship. I'm not sure. But the 2 timeline thing looks more prevalent to me than ever because your number 1 is 36. Your number 2 is 21. That's a huge gap to think about and a needle that you're trying to thread. And that's the reality of their situation.
All right, last one for me. Was the Trace Jackson Davis dunk actually a dunk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Some old heads think that it's not. It's more of a layup or a la-unk, as some people are calling it.
La-unk.
A la-unk. Well, I guess I would ask them if they felt that the Blake Griffin dunk on Timofey Mozgov was in fact a dunk or a layup.
I think a lot of people say that same thing, that was not a dunk.
That's fair. Okay, so then Dwight Howard's Superman dunk in 2008, I think it was, should not have been it was not a dunk contest dunk. It was a lay-in contest, perfect 50, right?
Right.
So he threw it in from the free throw line or something like that.
Something like, well, I mean, that whole thing was a spectacle to begin with. Yeah.
To me, if the trajectory of the ball is going down, it's a dunk.
Yeah.
If you're going up to the rim, it's a layup or a jump shot.
Yeah. Michael Jordan didn't hit rim in Space Jam.
That's a good point.
That is
in the half court one. We call that one a dunk.
Wow. Fair point, Steve.
Put that into perspective.
You just rocked my world, Steven.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Maybe actually we put this conversation to bed. It's a dunk officially because of that.
No, I say it's a dunk. Tom on the show the other day was just like, I don't know if it's a dunk, and then it turned a whole debate.
Now, I don't think it looked as good because he also went to the floor. So, like, he didn't stick the landing, which would have been pretty cool. But no, I mean, he put it on the country of France, as Bob Fitzgerald said.
It was a great call. Evan, we catch you for every Warriors postgame show, right? On 95.7 The Game now?
Yeah, I'll be on tonight. And then I believe, Monday and Wednesday. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So coming up this
Love
week.
to hear that. All right, man. Well, thank you as always coming on when there's Chargers news and
anytime, boys.
Giving us the real. All right, man. Thanks again. Well, I'm sure we'll have you on again, man.
Yeah, anytime, boys. Take it easy.
We'll talk about Zach Geloff and Lawrence Butler, and he left. Look at that.
Kicked himself on his own.
He just kicked himself out.
Yeah, probably banned himself not to deal with your dumb questions anymore.
I was about to ask him a very profound question about the A's youngsters. Can you name more than 3 A's players?
Me?
Go. Yeah.
Diekman. Or he's not even on the team anymore. No, who's the guy that was the All-Star that was just on the team from this past year?
Yeah. You should name him.
Rooker?
Good Lord. Brent Rooker, Derek. Yes.
Hey man, I'm a conflicted A's fan these days. I don't know if I even want to pay attention to the team. They're hard to anyway because they're so damn terrible.
If you follow Carl, we've had Carl on. If you're a A's hopeful and you want to get some glass half full commentary. Carl gives it real. He'll criticize the team, but that man is high on a lot of their prospects going into the major leagues. And
he loves himself some baseball. He loves himself some
baseball, and he's talking about Lawrence Butler and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, guy hit 211 last year, but yeah, great hitter. You know what I mean? Like, damn, you really glass half full. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be when you're covering that team.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, I did a jackass of the week earlier when I said Nick Saban was kind of out of pocket for his whatever Capitol Hill comments about NILs. Who's your jackass of the week?
No, I wanted to do something the opposite. I wanted to go with I don't even know what you'd call it. Would you call it like this? What's the opposite of a jackass?
A good person.
Just the good person of the week.
Yeah,
a
nice ass person.
No, I don't have like a jackass of the week. I guess the number one would be, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to go down as the jackass of the week.
But okay, but are you going to call him a jackass for things that maybe he's not even doing? Like, do we even know if he's really going to be running for vice president? And if so, like, is that necessarily a jackass thing? And at the same time,
it's not the VP thing. It's just everything surrounding it. I think like it creates more. I'm good with contrarians, and I'm good with people who question everything, but when it comes to mass shootings and not saying definitively that you didn't quit, like he did his whole immunized bit again with his little apology. He did the immunized bit. He said he didn't say directly, no, I've never had any sort of theory on this matter, but he said something else, and he's just like I said before, and it's just he's trying to outsmart everyone because he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. So I guess that's just always a jackass of the week. But I wanted to go opposite here. I wanted to go good guy of the week. Stanford head men's basketball coach, Jared Haas. Okay. I don't know if you saw it after the quarterfinal when they lost to Washington State in the Pac-12 tournament, but
I did not.
Yeah. Well, that's because it was also on the Pac-12 network. Like no one could even watch it, which is just, that's just that's a whole issue with the Pac-12. Right. But I want to give Jared Haas the good guy of the week because he was let go like immediately after the game and before his press conference.
Kind of like Jack Del Rio.
A little bit, except it wasn't a Jack Del Rio situation because Jack Del Rio literally announced the news.
It.
Yeah. And actually that happened with Utah State's women's basketball coach earlier this week. But he went up to the podium and for 5 minutes just gave an opening statement that I listened to through and through. And it was just so commendable, I guess, the way that he approached it. And I know he had like a 126, 127 record. They didn't get into the tournament once since he took over, but I just can't imagine what it would be like to get fired from a job you probably feel like you should still have. And then to go up for 5 minutes and do nothing but give praise and gratitude and express all of that in just a manner where it was he seemed like he was a very stand-up individual. And he talked about how he really takes pride in accountability and how he instills that in his players and how he holds his players accountable and all that. But then he basically closed it out by saying, yeah, I'm big on accountability, but the fact is I didn't win games and I need to be held accountable. And this is the action that is going to hold me accountable. And so he went on for 5 minutes. I don't know. I found it very powerful in a way because I could see a lot of coaches kind of taking the low road, maybe going out of their just, short answers, barely answering questions, but he kept his head held high. And that was after he got let go from a job, which he held for 8 years. So Jared Haas gets my good guy of the week. Shout out to him.
No, definitely commendable. Cause back in the day, I've seen like old footage of like press conferences from the 90s when football coaches got fired. They held press conferences to explain what happened.
Yeah.
Like I've seen George Seifert when he got fired from the Niners, he did a press conference, which today is like, no, like I don't want to talk about why I got fired or why I'm losing my job. It's embarrassing enough. But for Jared Hess, you said?
Yeah, Haas.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll find another job.
Yeah, I hope so. But I just saw that. I was like, was moving. I was like, wow.
There you go.
You know,
well, there's your good guy of the week.
Yeah. Jackass of the week, whatever. There's not a lot. Honestly, there hasn't been a lot of jackasses that I can figure out this week that I can think of.
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't always have to be a jackass. Yes, there's nothing wrong with a little positivity, Steven.
Your boy Tacky is going to see Shane Gillis, and he asking, wait, so he ate shit next to a girl?
Oh, they're telling the story when I fell last night?
Yeah.
I should also phrase that it wasn't like a thing. It was just like somebody's friend in the KMBR group, and we were both walking to get water, and I embarrassingly ate shit.
So you actually fell to the ground, like legitimately fell?
Yes.
Were you able to, I don't know, break your fall a little bit? Were you able to stop yourself, or was it out of nowhere?
Nope, just fell to the ground. Large thud.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Thank God.
I wish I would have been there.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, you and Tacky would have loved it. I'm sure you and Tacky could be best friends at my demise.
Oh, I do have another jackass of the week, and this is kind of following No, I do have one. This is following a Barstool Sports story. Have you seen this?
No.
Obviously you've watched Entourage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the guy Kevin Connolly,
the
guy who plays he I guess he screwed over one of the Barstool employees before the employee, like, that guy Jersey Jerry, he's doing all those live streams and everything. I showed you the Arch Madness that they did with the foot competition.
Yeah.
I guess he used to make content with someone else, and Kevin Connolly, the guy who plays created like some sports media company and brought them on to do content for him, to work for them. And I think he like owed them $35,000 or something like that part-time. That was his job, $35K part-time. And then, supposedly, Kevin Connolly just never paid anything. And then he just like fired people left and right, didn't pay them anything. So pretty much just tried to hire a bunch of people, create his own media company, and not pay anyone because of it. So now we're seeing Kevin Connolly in like a war with the Barstool crowd from the internet, the stoolies. And that's a scary sector of the internet if they turn on you. Damn. So right now they're in a battle. But after hearing that, I'm like, yeah, Kevin Connolly, kind of a jackass of the week. There you go.
All right. Yeah. And his Gotti movie was terrible.
I never watched it.
Yeah. He directed a Gotti movie with Travolta. Not good. All right, Steven. Well, 2 hours is enough for me. Back on Tuesday?
What am I doing Tuesday? I'm doing something on Tuesday.
Okay, never mind.
Can't do it on Tuesday. What am I doing on Tuesday? I'm doing something on Tuesday. I can't do it on Tuesday.
All right, we'll figure it out. Warriors play Wednesday, so maybe we come back on Thursday then.
Okay.
But if something crazy happens, we'll figure out something. Shane Gillis is performing in Oakland tonight?
Yeah.
Shoot, I might.
Oh, those tickets sold out quick, man.
They're gone already?
Yeah, I tried getting those tickets immediately, but they were gone. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a little snooping.
Shane Gillis is like the biggest thing going in comedy right now. I'm jealous.
I know. Damn, I shouldn't. Fucking, it's right down the street here for me.
Tacky didn't respond to the message that I put up there on the chat. I was like, "Where'd you get that cheese, Danny?"
Huh?
His joke about the grilled cheese with his cousin.
Is that one of the big stand-ups?
Yeah, it's from his latest special, where his cousin is like sneaking grilled cheeses.
See, that's the thing. Like, I love Shane Gillis, but I don't remember any of the bits.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that everyone's talking about. Where'd you get that cheese, Danny?
I didn't even watch him on SNL. I didn't bother to watch.
I think it actually might have been his uncle, but anyway.
All right.
Anyway, 2 hours.
On that note, I'll let you. I'll let you and Jesse have a great birthday weekend for her. Huh?
Yeah. About to go spend a lot of money tonight at dinner. So,
have fun with that. Where at?
Going to Shadowbrook in Capitola.
Ooh.
Yeah. And you know what they have to bring you to the restaurant?
A gondola?
A gondola. They bring you up in a gondola.
Oh, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
How much does that gondola cost?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Free. I think it's free to go up there. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see, buddy boy. R.I.P. to your wallet. All right, everybody. We'll be back. We'll see. We'll see next week when we return, and we'll have our brackets filled out. How about that? Huh? Do a little March Madness.
All right, sweet.
All right. Until then, thanks to everybody in the chat, except for Tacky. Steven, say what you always say.
Eat shit, Derek. It's just our opinion, man.